Write the missing number to make this division correct. 75 divided by something equals 7.5. So here we have a 7 and a 5 as the digits of both our dividend and our answer. So all that's changed is the place value. So if we have 75, we can put a decimal point on the end because we really have an invisible decimal point on the end of every whole number, and then we can write 7.5 below with the decimal points lined up. And then we can see that the digits have moved one square to the right, and if digits have moved one square, we're dividing by 10 because 10 has one zero. So the 7 that was in our tens has moved to our ones, and the 5 that was in our ones has moved to our tenths. The other thing that we can spot is that if we imagine the decimal point on the end, moving it one place to the left gives us our answer, and if we move the decimal point one place to the left, we've divided by 10. A group of friends earns £80 by washing cars. They share the money equally. They get £16 each. How many friends are in the group? So because we know that they share equally, we know that we need to divide the total by the amount that each of them get. So work out 80 divided by 16. One way to do this is to count up in steps of 16 until we get to 80. So one friend will earn £16 because that's how much they each get. But if we add another £16, that means two friends will get £32. Three friends, if we add another £16, will get £48. Four friends will get £64, and then 5 friends will get £80. So that means 80 divided by 16 is 5, so that means that there are 5 friends. The other way of working this out is to spot that they get £16 each. So if there were 10 friends and they got £16 each, that would be £160. But £80 is half of 160, so if 10 times 16 is 160, that means 5 times 16 will be 80, so we know that there are 5 friends who each get £16, and that comes to a total of £80. Chen uses these digit cards. She makes a 2-digit number and a 1-digit number. She multiplies them together. Her answer is a multiple of 10. What could Chen's multiplication be? So we need to remember that a multiple of 10 is a number in the 10 times table, and all multiples of 10 end in a 0. So we could have 6 and 5 as our ones digits, because 6 times 5 is 30, and that's a multiple of 10 because it ends in a 0. And then we can have 9 as our tens digits. So Chen's multiplication could be 96 times 5, because that will give an answer which ends in a 0, and so be a multiple of 10. Or we could have 95 times 6, because that will give an answer that's a multiple of 10 as well. This graph shows the temperature in degrees Celsius from 2 AM to 3 PM on a cold day. How many degrees warmer was it at 3 PM than at 3 AM? So we have the time of day along the bottom, so we can find 3 PM, draw a line up or read up, and then across from where it hits the point on our line graph. And we can see that the temperature at 3 PM was 2 degrees. And at 3 AM, the temperature was -5 degrees. So the question asks how many degrees warmer, so we need to find the difference. From -5, so from the temperature at 3 AM, we can add 5 to get to 0, but then to get to 2 degrees, we need to add another 2. so that takes us to the temperature at 3 p.m. So to get from -5 to 2, we need to add 5 and then 2, so that's 7 degrees altogether. Another way would be just to count on our graph, because we can see that each line is 1 degree, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees between -5 and 2. Now, at 6 p.m, the temperature was 4 degrees lower than at 3 p.m. What was the temperature at 6 p.m? So we know that the temperature at 3 p.m. was 2 degrees, and we need a temperature that's 4 degrees lower. So from 2, we can subtract 2 to get to 0, but then because we need to subtract 4, we can subtract another 2, because 2 and 2 make 4. So 0 minus 2 is -2, which means that the temperature was -2 degrees. We could also, from 2 degrees, go back 4 on our line graph, so go 4 degrees down, and we can see that we get to -2. The children at Farmfield School are collecting money for charity. Their target is to collect £360. So far, they have collected £57.73. How much more money do they need to reach their target? So how much more money tells us that we need to find the difference between their target and what they've collected so far. So we can subtract £57.73 from £360, which can of course be written 360.00 to show that we have £360 but no extra pence. So then we can use column subtraction, and there's quite a lot of exchanging here, but that will give us our answer, £302.27. The other way to solve this question, rather than using column subtraction, would be to count on from £57.73 until we get to £360. So if we add 27 pence, that takes us to £58, because 73 plus 27 is 100, and if we have 100 pence, that takes us to the next pound. Then from £58, we can add £2 to get to £60, and then add £300 to get to their target, £360. So altogether, that means we've counted on £302.27, so that's how much more money they need. William wants to travel to Paris by train. He needs to arrive in Paris by 5:30 p.m. Circle the latest time that William can leave London. So here we have a time given in p.m, but we can see from the timetable that times are given using 24-hour clock time. So we need to find what is 5:30 p.m. in 24-hour clock time. Well, that's 17:30, because we add 12 to the number of hours if we have a p.m. time, and 5 plus 12 is 17. So he needs to arrive in Paris by or before 17:30. So this train here that arrives at 17:35 will be too late. So he needs to get the train that arrives in Paris at 17:26. But the question doesn't ask to circle the latest time that he can arrive in Paris. We're asked to circle the latest time that William can leave London. So we need to go to the left and circle this time here. So the latest time that he can leave London is 14:01, because that will arrive in Paris at 17:26, so before 17:30. Here is a triangle drawn on a coordinate grid. The triangle is translated 7 right and 5 up. Draw the triangle in its new position. So translated just means moved. So what we can do is find a point on the triangle that we have, and then we can count 7 squares to the right, then count 5 squares up, and that will give us the point on our translated triangle. So now, to make the triangle, from this point, we can see that we need a line 3 squares to the left, then a line 3 squares up, and then we can connect this point to the point where we started, and we've translated our triangle. Write 3 factors of 30 that are not factors of 15. So we need to remember that a factor is the opposite of a multiple. So factors of 30 will be numbers that have 30 in their times table. So you can divide 30 by one of its factors and your answer will not have a remainder. So let's find the factors of 30 and the factors of 15. We can find factors in pairs, so we can think what times what is 15. Well, 1 times 15 is 15, so 1 and 15 are factors. Remember, the number 1 and the number itself will always be factors of a number. But we can also make 15 with 3 times 5, so 3 and 5 are factors as well. Now let's find the factors of 30. So think what times what is 30. We can have 1 and 30. We can have 2 and 15 because 2 times 15 is 30. And the way to work that out is that if we divide 30 by 2, we'll get 15. We can have 3 times 10, so 3 and 10 are factors. Or we could have 5 times 6, so 5 and 6 are factors of 30 as well. Now we need to write 3 of these factors of 30, but we can only write factors of 30 that are not factors of 15. So we can't write 1 because that's a factor of 15 as well. And we can't write 15, we can't write 3, and we can't write 5. So the factors of 30 that are not factors of 15 are the numbers 2, 6, 10 and 30. So we need to write 3 of these 4 numbers here. Here is the morning timetable for Chen's class this week. What is the total number of hours for English on this timetable? So for Monday, we can see that Chen has English between 11 AM and 12 PM. So that's 1 hour of English. On Tuesday, English is from 9 o'clock to 10:30, so that's 1 hour, 30 minutes. On Wednesday, Chen does not have any English lesson, so that's 0 hours. On Thursday, English is from 9 until 10:30, so that's 1 hour, 30 minutes. And on Friday, it's from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, so that's 1 hour. So what is the total number of hours? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, but then 2 times 30 minutes will make a 5th hour because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So that means she has 5 hours of English altogether. A bottle contains 568 millilitres of milk. Jack pours out half a litre. How much milk is left? So we need to remember that 1 litre is the same as 1000 millilitres. So that means that half a litre will be 500 millilitres because half of 1000 or 1000 divided by 2 is 500. So the bottle starts with 568, but 500 get poured out. So we need to subtract, and that gives us 68 millilitres for how much milk is left. A bicycle wheel has a diameter of 64 centimetres. What is the radius of the bicycle wheel? So the radius will be half of the diameter. So we can divide 64 by 2, and that gives us a radius of 32 centimetres. Remember, if we have a circle, the diameter is the distance from one edge to the edge on the opposite side, and the line has to go through the centre of the circle. But the radius is the distance from the centre of a circle to the edge. Now I've drawn the diameter as a horizontal line, but it doesn't have to be horizontal. The diameter connects any 2 points on the edge which go through the middle. And same for the radius, I've drawn a line from the middle down to the bottom, but the radius is the distance from the middle to any point on the edge. So that's why the radius of a circle is always half the length of the diameter. Adam buys 6 bags of white balloons. Chen buys 3 bags of red balloons. Adam says, I have 4 times as many balloons as Chen. Explain why Adam is correct. Well, Adam buys 6 bags of white balloons, and there are 24 white balloons in each bag. So we can work out 6 times 24 to find the total number of balloons that he buys. And Chen buys 3 bags of red balloons, and there are 12 in each bag, so that's 3 times 12, or 36 balloons. So let's work out 6 times 24. That's 144. So Adam buys 144, Chen buys 36, and 144 is 4 times 36, because if we multiply 36 by 4, we get 144. So to explain why Adam is correct, we need to explain that Adam has 6 times 24, so 144 balloons. Chen has 3 times 12, so 36 balloons, and 36 times 4 is 144, or 144 divided by 4 is 36. Circle the pentagon with exactly 4 acute angles. So here we need to remember that a pentagon is a shape with 5 sides, and an acute angle is less than a right angle. So a right angle is the same size as the corner of a piece of paper or the corner of this screen, and an acute angle is smaller than a right angle. So with this shape here, we have angles which are all obtuse angles, all larger, not smaller than a right angle. Here we only have one acute angle, because this angle here is acute, but these 2 angles are obtuse angles, and these angles are right angles. Now for this shape we have 1, 2, 3, 4 acute angles, and then this angle here is a reflex angle. So here we have 4 acute angles, and we have a pentagon because the shape has 5 sides. Now in this shape here we have 4 acute angles as well, but this shape is not a pentagon. It has 6 sides, so it's a hexagon, not a pentagon. And in this shape here we have all obtuse angles, and again it's not a pentagon because it has 6 sides, so it's a hexagon. So that means the pentagon with exactly 4 acute angles is this shape here. 3 pineapples cost the same as 2 mangoes. 1 mango costs £1.35. How much does 1 pineapple cost? So if we know the cost of 1 mango, we can find the cost of 2 mangoes by multiplying by 2, and that gives us £2.70. So because 3 pineapples cost the same as 2 mangoes, that means 3 pineapples will cost £2.70 as well. And if we know the cost of 3 pineapples, we can find the cost of 1 by dividing by 3. So £2.70 divided by 3 is £0.90, or 90 pence. We could represent this problem with a bar model. So we have 2 mangoes, and that's the same cost as 3 pineapples. So the 2 bars for mango are the same length as the 3 bars together for pineapple. So to find the total cost of 2 mangoes, or of 3 pineapples, we can add £1.35 plus £1.35 or multiply £1.35 by 2, and that gives us £2.70. So if we know that 3 pineapples cost £2.70, we can divide that by 3 and we get 90 pence as the cost of 1 pineapple. Look at the letters below. Circle the letter that has both parallel and perpendicular lines. So we can remember that parallel lines are like train tracks. They're lines that if we extended them would go on forever without ever crossing. And perpendicular lines are the opposite. They're lines which if we extended them would cross at right angles. So we can see that shape E has parallel lines, so these lines here, but we can also see that this vertical line is perpendicular to the horizontal lines because they cross at right angles, so at 90-degree angles. So the letter we need to circle is the E. We can see that shape L, or the letter L, has perpendicular lines because we have a right angle here, but it does not have parallel lines. And the letter Z has parallel lines because this top line is parallel to this bottom line, but we don't have perpendicular lines because we don't have lines that cross at right angles. There are 2,400 leaflets in a box. William and Ali take 450 leaflets each. Adam and Chen share the rest of the leaflets equally. How many leaflets does Adam get? So we know that William and Ali take 450 each. So if both of them take 450, they take 900 altogether. So of the 2,400 leaflets, 900 are taken. So to find the rest of the leaflets, we need to subtract the 900 that have been taken from the 2,400 that we started with, and that gives us 1,500 leaflets to be shared equally between Adam and Chen. So if we're sharing equally between two children, we can divide our total by 2, and that gives us 750. So Adam gets 750 leaflets. We could represent this problem with a bar model. So we know that we have 2,400 leaflets altogether. 450 are taken by William, 450 are taken by Ali, so that's 900 taken altogether. Now the rest of the leaflets are to be shared between Adam and Chen, and if we subtract 900 from 2,400, that tells us that they're sharing 1,500 leaflets. And because they're sharing equally, we can divide that by 2, so Adam gets 750 and so does Chen. In each box, circle the number that is greater. So for this question, we need to compare fractions and decimals, and the easiest way to do that is to change our fractions into decimals. So 1/2 is the same as 5/10, which means that 1½ is the same as 1.5. So we can see that that will be greater than 1.2. Now we have 1 and 1/4. We can't change 1/4 into tenths because 10 isn't in the 4 times table. But we can find an equivalent fraction to 1/4 with a denominator of 100. Because 4 times 25 is 100 and 1 times 25 is 25. So because 1/4 is the same as 25 hundredths, we can write 1 and 1/4 as 1.25 because the second digit after the decimal point is the hundredths digit, and we have a fraction with a denominator of 100. So now we need to compare 1.25 and 1.3. But remember, 1.3 is the same as 1.30. we can put zeros on the end of decimals without changing the value of the number. And the reason why we can do that is because all this zero tells us is that we don't have any hundredths in the number 1.3. But now we can see that 1.3 is larger than 1.25, so larger than 1 and 1/4, because 1.3 has 3/10, but 1.25 only 2/10. Now 1 and 500ths as a decimal is 1.05, because the second digit after the decimal point tells us how many hundredths we have. And we need to compare that to 1.4, but again we can remember that 1.4 is the same as 1.40, so that's larger than 1.05, because both numbers have 1 as the ones digit, but here we have a 0 as the tenths digit, and here we have a 4, so we know that this number is larger. And now we have 1 and 3/5, and 3/5 is equivalent to 6/10, so we can write that as 1.6, because we know the first digit after the decimal point tells us how many tenths we have, so that's larger than 1.5. A square number and a prime number have a total of 22. What are the two numbers? So we need to remember that a square number is what we get when we multiply a number by itself. So 1 is a square number because 1 times 1 is 1. 4 is a square number because 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4, 16. And 5 times 5 is 25. So they're all square numbers. And we also need to know that a prime number is a number with only two factors. So a number that's only in the 1 times table and its own times table. So 2 is only in the 1 and 2 times tables. 3 only in the 1 and 3 times tables. 17 only in the 1 and 17 times tables, and so on. So we need two of these numbers to give a total of 22. So we can have 9 as our square number and 13 as our prime number, because 9 plus 13 is 22. 9 is a square number because it's what we get when we multiply the number 3 by itself, and 13 is a prime number because it's only in the 1 times table and the 13 times table. It's a number with only two factors. Dev thinks of a whole number. He multiplies it by 4. He rounds his answer to the nearest 10. The result is 50. Write all the possible numbers that Dev could have started with. So he gets 50 after rounding to the nearest 10. So that means before he rounds his answer to the nearest 10, he could have between 45 and 54, because numbers between those numbers round to 50 when rounding to the nearest 10. So what number multiplied by 4 will give an answer between these numbers? Well, we know that multiples of 4, we have 44, 48. If we add another 4, we'll get 52, and another 4 will be 56. So 44 is too small, because 44 rounds to 40, not to 50. 48 is 12 times 4, so he could have started with 12 and multiplied by 4 to get 48, and then rounded to get 50. Or we could have 52, which is 13 times 4. But 56 is too big, because 56 rounded to the nearest 10 would be 60, not 50. So that means he must have started with either 12 or 13. If he started with 12, he would multiply by 4 to get 48, then round to the nearest 10 to get 50. And if he started with 13, he could have multiplied by 4 to get 52, and then that rounded to the nearest 10 is 50 as well. So that means that he started with 12 or 13. A square tile measures 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. A rectangular tile is 3 centimeters longer and 2 centimeters narrower than the square tile. What is the difference in area between the two tiles? So the area is the amount of space that something takes up. And to find the area of a square, we multiply the side length by itself, and 20 times 20 is 400, because 2 times 2 is 4, and then we have 2 end zeros in the question, so 2 end zeros in the answer. So now we need to find the area of a rectangular tile. We know that it's 3 centimeters longer, so 3 centimeters more than 20 is 23, but it's 2 centimeters narrower, so that's 2 centimeters less than 20, because if it's narrower, then it's not as wide. So 2 less than 20 is 18. So we can work out 23 times 18, and that gives us 414. Now we want to know what is the difference, and we find the difference using subtraction. So 414 minus 400 is 14, so that's a difference in area of 14 centimeters squared. The numbers in this sequence increase by the same amount each time. Write the missing numbers. So we can see that we have 1 and then 1 and 5/8. So that's an increase of 5/8. And because the numbers increase by the same amount each time, all of the increases will be 5/8. So to find this box here, we need to work out 2 and 1/4 plus 5/8. Now 1/4 is the same as 2/8. So 2 and 2/8 plus 5/8 will be 2 and 7/8. And now for this box we have something plus 5/8 equals 1. So we're working backwards, so we can work out 1 minus 5/8. Remember, 1 whole is the same as 8/8, because if we have a fraction with the same numerator and denominator, we have 1 whole. So when we subtract 5/8 from that, we get 3/8 as this missing box here. So 3/8 plus 5/8 is 8/8, and that's the same as 1 whole. In this diagram, the shaded rectangles are all of equal width, and they've used the letter W to show the width. Calculate the width of one shaded rectangle. So on this top line, we have 34 and 1 width, so we can write 34 plus W. And on this bottom line, we have 18 and 9, so that's 27 altogether. And we have 2 widths, so we can have 27 plus W plus W. So now we can think we have plus W in both, but on this second line, we have an extra width. So if we think 27 plus the extra width must equal 34. So 27 plus 7 is 34, which means the width of one shaded rectangle will be 7 centimeters. 27 plus 7 is 34, so that must be the length of the width. Here is a pattern of number pairs. Complete the rule for the number pattern. So we have B equals something times A minus something. So if we look at the values for B, we have 9, 19, 29, 39. So we can see that it's going up by 10 each time. So what we can do is write our 10 times table next to the values of B, because it's increasing by 10 each time. So we can have 10, 20, 30, 40. And then we can see that the number in B is always 1 less than the number in the 10 times table. So 1 times 10 is 10, minus 1 is 9. 2 times 10 is 20, minus 1 is 19. 3 times 10 is 30, minus 1 is 29. 4 times 10 is 40, minus 1 is 39. So that means B is equal to 10 times A minus 1, because we can multiply the value in A by 10 and then subtract 1 to get the value of B. Cube A and cuboid B have the same volume. Calculate the missing length on cuboid B. So for cube A, we have a length of 6, and all the lengths of a cube are the same. So we can work out the volume, we can work out how much space this cube takes up by working out 6 times 6 times 6. Now 6 times 6 is 36, and 36 times 6 is 216. Now we know that cuboid B has the same volume. We multiply the length, width and height. So we have 6 times 4 times something, and that will need to equal 216 as well, because they have the same volume. Now 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 times what is 216? Well, if we divide 216 by 24, we'll get 9. So 24 times 9 is 216. And the way to work that out quickly is to spot that 24 times 10 would be 240, and 216 is 24 less than 240. So that's why we have times 9, not times 10, because if we added another 24, that would be 240. So that means our missing length must be 9 centimeters. And there was a quicker way of working this out, because here we can see 6 times 6 is 36. So then we need 4 times something to be 36 as well, and 4 times 9 is 36, which means that 6 times 4 times 9 will be 216.